Sheesh. Big time. No man. Diamonds in my teeth. I got a lot of shine.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, Flex Shane. Of course, I got my guy, Brandon Adam. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest. He is one of the best in the business. I guarantee you all know him. We got Derek Brown, a.k.a. D-Bro of FantasyPros. You can find him on X at dbro_FFB. Derek Brown, what's going on, brother?
Guys, thanks for having me. It's going to be a blast of a show. Just love talking ball. I love that y'all asked me on the show, man. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, a lot of rookies and stuff, man. And honestly, the top of the intro there is a little bit too effusive. I'm still surprised, even to this day, that anybody gives a crap about what I have to say about ball.
You know what's funny, Derek? So like we hit up a lot. Like we've been doing this for a long time. We're not, quite as big on the scene as you might be, but we've been doing this for a long time. So we talked to a lot of people and listened to a lot of shows and a lot of content. And you can pretty much guarantee you're going to be on somebody's show throughout the entire off season, preseason, rookie season, dynasty season. So you're pretty much everywhere. And you mentioned it to start.
I don't say no to anybody, dude. I mean,
I know. I'm a random Twitter guy that you said yes to. That was pretty wild to me, and I thought that was pretty down to earth and cool. And we truly appreciate you coming on and blessing us with some knowledge.
Oh shit, man! Like the way that I'll look at it is, again, and this no blowing smoke or anything. I'm still surprised anybody cares about what I have to say about ball. I have the biggest case of imposter syndrome out of anybody. I will never say no to anybody, man. Like I don't think it's right, dude. Like I feel like, if anybody asks you to sit here and come, talk about ball and stuff like that, like I'm not going to tell anybody no, man. Like I remember when I was doing a podcast 2-3 episodes in and I'm reaching out to people like Mike Clay and Marcus Grant in the industry and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I remember, getting all nervous and stuff about like whether people are going to DM me back and stuff like that. And so I respect it, dude. I definitely respect it. And again, I feel blessed that anybody cares what I have to say. So appreciate the time, guys.
You're a big voice in the space, and a lot of people want to hear what you got to say. And we're excited to do that because we got a lot of DFS guys that honestly, it's a totally different mindset. So it's going to be great to have you on here and kind of bless those guys with some of the deep knowledge of rookies that you do have. And that you've been, the Jax Falcone episode you had, the last one was fantastic. And to be honest, that was the reason why I reached out. I was like, you know what? We have some history with Jax as well. And
Jax is good people, dude. The thing about Jax is if I'm doing a show with Jax, I got a ballpark. Like I usually block off like 2.5 hours because I know there's a possibility we could go 2 hours. So like it's between him and Matt Kelly that I always block off like 3 hours because I'm like, it's gonna happen. We both like to talk, and that's what's up.
Yep, it's true.
That's all right. And I find this. I mean, listen, dynasty season. We're dynasty heads. Like that's kind of our course. We love to play. So rookie season is, I don't know. I'd say rookie month, like rookie draft season is May. So we're right on the tail end of that. But we hit you up the other day. We actually just started a new startup because we're degenerates and that's what we need to do, right? But it's an interesting time of year where a lot of the dynasty drafts are the rookie drafts are done, and it is de facto it's early best ball season and it's dynasty startup season. So a lot of our questions are going to be framed around the rookies and how they fit into either like a best ball or as you're comparing to rookie vets. And so I think, Brandon, let's get started. Let's get off with some of these icebreaker questions because I'm really curious to know where you rank some of these early round draft picks in particular versus say last year's class where there's still some guys that are kind of unknown. So listen, like to not bury the lead, I'm going to assume Ashton Genty is probably going to be the 101 in 95 to 99% of drafts, right? So really at that point, you're sitting at the 102 and there's definitely a bit of a tier there. And in Superflex, Cam Ward, I think, is de facto in that conversation. Now, I know we're going to chat a little bit later about who you might prefer. over Cam Ward. But let's just say for the average dynasty player, right? And you're on the clock, you're in your rookie draft, you've got to make a decision between the 102, or maybe you can go and take a fly. You try to trade that pick for, like, say, like a Michael Penix, who did, he played a little bit last year, showed some flashes. Brandon loves Michael Penix. Or like a JJ McCarthy, who's kind of a sight unseen right now. So when you're on the clock, and if you have one of those players, or say you've got the 102, which direction would you be leaning towards?
I think straight up, if I have the 102 and I'm staring at either I'm picking somebody at the 102, which for me, I don't disagree. I think you can make a conversation for whoever your QB1 of this class in a super flex format. You can make the conversation for that quarterback in that conversation. I think the 102 is very fluid, depends on team build, league, all that kind of stuff this year. I think you can make a conversation for whoever your QB1 is. Or Tedero McMillan or Marion Hampton. That's kind of the 3 pack of players that I think are in that 102 discussion. So if it's me and it's which one of those guys am I taking, just straight up like off of raw value, I'm going to lean JJ McCarthy here. I've got
baby.
I got him as a top 10 dynasty quarterback right now. I understand, a lot of people say, like, look, there's a lot of projection in that. And I'm fine with that, man. Like, I feel like there's a lot of different things you can unpack there. I feel like if you're playing Dynasty and you have a process and you follow that process, then either you should be leaning into that process or you don't waste the time of having a process. Because if you're going to sit here and lean on echo chamber and consensus and what everybody tells you should be done, then why waste the time honestly researching any players? Because then you don't even have your own takes. You're just following everything that everybody else says. So I understand there's projection with JJ McCarthy, and I have him as my QB8 in Dynasty right now, just in straight up Dynasty rankings, because I look at the situation. You cannot find a better offensive environment, whether it's skilled players, talent, offensive system out there with Minnesota. And it just got better this offseason, like adding Ty Felton, which is a small add, but giving them a legitimate slot wide receiver, adding to the interior offensive line. And we've seen this time and time again with KOC's offense, dude. Like Sam freaking Darnold. Yes, that Sam Darnold was QB9 in fantasy points per game last year. JJ is going to be a QB1 this year. Like lock it in. I don't care. Like I was in on him as a prospect. I know we only have like a half of preseason football, but this all goes back to what I thought about him as a prospect. He was my QB2 of that class, over Caleb Williams and over Drake May. I'm still standing on that 10 toes down because I've done the work. I understand. Like, I believe in his film and I believe in the talent.
Right on, man. Like that pretty much how you feel about JJ McCarthy is how I feel about Bo Nix. I was
wrong, and I'll own an L there. I was wrong on Nix.
Yeah. Okay.
I was with you, Derek.
Awesome.
I was with you. Trust me. I was not up on the Bo Nix, but Brandon is Brandon's pretty local Denver, right? So like it's all on brand for him.
Well, hey, go. I just told one of our viewers earlier today, go back before the draft ever happened, months before Trash Man and we talked about it, and I told Bo Nix is going to be a Denver Bronco. He's going to get first round draft capital. He's going to be a stud in that system, and bang on. That's just the way it is. I wasn't as high on McCarthy, but I'm turning around on it. Like you said, I'm believing in the culture. I'm believing in what they're building in Viking land. There's too much talent around him to absolutely implode. And I'm right there with you, but boy, Michael Penix can spin it. Michael Penix can spin it. And I think he's got some Stroud in him. I think he's got that Stroud upside, especially with Drake London. I don't know if you were a big Drake London guy when he came out, but
Drake London was my wide receiver one of that class.
There you go. Yeah, he was my R2. I thought
all three of us.
That's awesome. Drake London is a superstar, and he's only going to get even better. I think he has an outside chance to be wide receiver 1 this year. With that, and that is where it's
so
at,
much
man.
with that take. I agree so much with that damn take. I'm so in on that. Drake London does have wide receiver 1 overall upside this year. Absolutely agree.
So you would take Drake London over the 102 right now?
I was just over the 101. Would you take him over Genty?
I wouldn't take him over Genty, but I would, because Genty, like, Ginty's my RB3 in Dynasty, man. Like I just
Yeah.
straight up, like I love Drake London, but like I think there's other guys. Like it is literally in Dynasty right now. It's Bijan, it's Gibbs, and it's Ginty for me. I would take Ginty at the 101 spot, but I would take Drake London over Tedero McMillan because I look at Tet. I love Tet, but you're hoping that Tet becomes Drake London. That's what you're hoping. So it's like, do you want the product of the guy that's going to catch another 100 balls this year? That again, we all talked about has wide receiver 1 overall upside in his range of outcomes. Are you taking that guy, or are you going to take the guy that you hope turns into that with Bryce Young? No, I'm going to take the guy that is for like, what's Drake London? What is he? 23, 24 years old?
23.
He's going to get extended. He's going to get extended by the Falcons. Yep. There's no way that he's not. So we're talking about he's tied to a young quarterback. He has that upside, and he's coming off of a freaking season where he just literally caught 100 passes, and he's going to do it again this year.
So as I've been maturing in Dynasty more and more through the years, I've become more of a skeptic with rookies, and I actually buy proven products with those picks instead of using the picks on rookies. Is that something that you do as well? Like when it comes to those high-end picks where you can't miss, like you really, if you're in the top 4 of any draft, you cannot afford to miss on that pick. That's why I've sold my 102 for Drake. I've sold my 104 for Ladd. I've sold my 101 for Brian Thomas Jr. Like I've done those deals because I would rather know what I'm getting than take the mystery box. Is that something that you do, or do you like the risk and just like being right about rookies?
I mean, dude, going back to this, I know this isn't a DFS show, but I'm a DFS OG. I'm a big believer in that upside wins in DFS. Upside wins you lots of money. In fantasy, 100%. Upside wins you championships, whether it's redraft or dynasty, all of that. Like I'm chasing upside. And again, this kind of goes back to, I fully believe like I've got enough years under my belt, and there's been a lot of hits and a lot of misses. I think the hits for me outweigh the misses. And so I believe in my process with rookies. I think when it comes down to me, it depends on where that pick is and the player like tier that I'm kind of looking at, what I can get for them. So it's kind of been a microcosm. I think like 100-foot view of that question, I believe in my process with rookies. So I'm willing to take those shots, and I'm willing to embrace the risk. But that's why, like, honestly, like people can compare my rankings. And again, this kind of goes back to somewhat of a DFS mindset, and honestly, just being in the game for a few years and trying to understand that, like, I am very aggressive about how I rank players. Now I've tried to water that down, so I'm not as aggressive where like you don't want to do something that's just straight up foolish. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're above market so people are following your rankings, listening to what you're talking about or what you're writing about for certain players, that they're getting exposure to certain players in their drafts. And for me, it comes down to, yes, doing this and getting deeper and deeper and deeper into rookies and evals and NFL draft and stuff like that over the last like 3 to 4 years. I believe in my process of rookies. And so for me, I'm more willing to embrace that type of risk because the proof is in the pudding. And after you have a certain amount of time in this, and you can kind of go back and say, improve the process even more year over year, there's going to be hits and there's also going to be misses. But I think my hits are going to outweigh that.
Wow. Yeah, man, I think that's a really great segue because a player that you were higher on than anybody leading up to the draft process, and then lo and behold, he got the draft capital.
Look at that.
You talk about him in one of your articles. Go over to fantasypros.com, and there's one of your articles called 9 Rookie Running Backs to Draft. I'm going to include the link in the show description. One of the guys you're super high on is RJ Harvey. Just please get on your throne and pontificate.
So before you say this, before you go off, so we have a group of guys in our ecosystem with this show, and one of them is Mike Dickinson, and he just took RJ Harvey at the 105, ahead of Judkins, ahead of Henderson. So you love that. You don't think that's too rich?
Nope, I don't think it's too rich. I have RJ Harvey as my 7th overall player in rookie Superflex rankings right now, but I think the conversation for him does start at the 105 with the 2 quarterbacks. And I mean, dude, the way this comes down to it is I feel like everybody's pushed back because it's either one of two things. When you get players that are heavily hyped and stuff like that, and everybody feels like they are pushing in one direction, I think it's human nature for us to kind of push back or question or have skepticism. But let's lay out the scenario here. He got 2nd round capital. I don't give a shit that he's 24 years old. Don't care. That doesn't matter to me because two different things. If he's good, he's good. And if you're playing in a 2 to 3 year window for Dynasty, if he's 24 years old, does that matter? It shouldn't, because you're literally talking about, okay, in that window, he's 26, 27 at the tail end of that window. He's got a clear runway. And for everybody that wants to push back and say, well, what about Estime? What about McLaughlin? What about those guys last year? Like, they did nothing versus the ghost of Javonte Williams. So why should I be concerned about either one of them this year? Estime is not a pass catcher. He does not profile as that. Jaleel was not used in the Joker role, and I was super high on Jaleel last year. It did not happen. Peyton didn't give him the run and the role. So why the heck do we think that that's going to happen in the year 2025 after they put 2nd round capital into a running back that went out, crushed the combine, crushed it in his final few years at Central Florida? Like, we're discussing a player that over the last 2 seasons, he is ranked top 20 in both breakaway run percentage and elusive rating. The talent, the testing, the runway are all there. I haven't heard, and please, if y'all have a good and compelling argument for why not RJ Harvey, please hit me with it. I want to have that conversation. I haven't heard an actually good argument to push back of why not RJ Harvey yet.
Honestly, I'm right there with you, and that's awesome. I just real quick, I have a couple cool little stats about RJ that I just saw with fantasy points. Top 5 RBs by yards per carry for the incoming rookie class. Ashton Genty's at 6.19 yards created. RJ Harvey is second with 5.67. Yards per. Bashal Tootin, number 3, 5.25. And then Marion Hampton's at 5.08. And Judkins is at 4.5. So that tells you that this guy doesn't need a system to be explosive in the NFL. He is going to be able to do it on his own, and he's going to be able to instantly have impact, which is fantastic. Other RBs that have at least 5 yards created and 0.4 missed tackles forced per carry since 2016 by Graham Barfield. Here it is. Christian McCaffrey, Kareem Hunt, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Sony Michel, Barkley, Javonte Williams, Marshawn Lloyd, Ashton Genty, Marion Hampton, RJ Harvey, and Bashal Tootin. Those are that is the class. That is a great list to be on. If you have any issues with taking RJ Harvey, I think you could sleep well with that selection. And another thing that people don't understand is that the Broncos are in bad shape with salary cap, bad shape with draft capital, and they gave up the 2nd round pick for this guy when they just drafted an RB last year with Audric Estime, and that tells you what they think of this cat. So I'm right there with you. It's too good to be true. When that happened, I got major goosebumps during the draft. I was like, here we go. RJ Harvey is on a rocket ship and on ADP, and it's going to be exciting.
I mean, dude, he was so pre-draft. I think this is where it comes down to also the pushback for a lot of people. I think consensus-wise, you saw a lot of rankings out there that had him as like the RB 10, 12. Some people had him outside their top 12 and stuff. And I think, dude, he was my RB 5 pre-draft. And after the draft, he's RB 3 for me. Like, I mean, dude, like, I think there's a good conversation to be had of him versus Travion. Now, where I split hairs with those two guys is RJ Harvey does not have a Ramondre Stevenson to deal with goal line or early downs or any of that. Nothing. None of that. So what are we worried about, man? Like, I'm not. I just, again, I haven't heard a compelling argument against RJ Harvey outside of people still holding on to the fact of, well, he's 24 years old, which my rebuttal has been and continues to be, I don't care.
You know what's is so funny? When we first started Dynasty, I say we, like, you know, generally speaking, the proverbial we, like, we would always look in 5-7 year windows, which is just so asinine looking back in it.
Crazy, right?
It's like, I look at my Dynasty teams that are even 2 or 3 years old, my team now compared to what it was 2 or 3 years ago during the startup, and it's so different already. So I think we definitely need to.
That's a great point, because the fact is, if you are in active leagues, if your team, and this all comes down to, if you're in active leagues, and the active leagues are the ones that keep going, those are the ones that don't have like 3 or 4 orphans after the first year. If you are in active leagues and you care about your Dynasty teams, and you're in leagues that where there are trades and things happen and stuff like that, tell me how many guys are actually on your roster outside of those cornerstone foundational pieces. How many guys are even still on your freaking team after 3 years?
Exactly.
None.
Well,
so why do you give a shit if the guy has 10 years in his career? He's not going to be on your damn team.
Exactly. I'm going to win 3 championships in that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like, so what if he's 28 at the end, or 29 at the end of his freaking rookie deal? One, can we not also say that this new iteration of the NFL over the last 2 years and the revitalization of the running back position, they are more likely to give second contracts to older players that are good? And if you're making the bet on RJ Harvey, you're already drafting him, making the bet that he's good. And if he's good for the 3 or 4 years on his rookie deal. If he's good, he earns the second contract. If he's good, he keeps producing when he's 28, 29, and 30 years old. All you're doing is making the bet that the player is good. And if that happens, all the other things happen. All of them.
Home run.
Home run, baby. I love it. Get him fired up, baby. Fired up.
Dude,
I think, listen, the only thing for me is, like, when it comes to these player values, like, you can go, if you draft, say, RJ Harvey at pick 5. So for the record, I've got him baked in at 8 in my rankings, but we do tiers. So it's, you know, it's right in that ballpark, right? But the chances are you're going to make money on that bet, right? Which means next year you can cash in on that. And I think, listen, the biggest thing too is, you know, in fantasy, we want to win championships, and there's definitely this idea that you want to rebuild. But there's certainly some teams that I look at as like, holy shit, like, how the hell did this team finish third? Or how the hell is this team in a championship? Because all it takes is getting to the dance. And when you understand the philosophy of a Dynasty League, where you might have 4 or 5 managers that are competing, you got 4 or 5 managers that are tanking, and you've got a few people in the middle that are just rolling the dice, you're only trying to compete with a few people. So if you go and you spend the capital, and listen, like, so I'm a Patriots fan. So when they finally drafted Travion, I was on tables dancing. I was ecstatic, and I have him slightly ranked above, just because, maybe not for this year. Like in best ball drafts, I'm definitely taking RJ Harvey over Travion. But next year, moving forward, like
redraft, I had Travion over Harvey, just for transparency. I did have Travion over Harvey pre-draft, so I'm with you. But go ahead.
Yeah. So, like, I get excited about that, but, you know, ultimately it's like, if you can go and you can, and RJ Harvey's stock is just going to continue to increase this year. And to your point, if you're in an active Dynasty League, maybe you can sell that. Maybe you can go and get a top 3 pick next year and get one of these new incoming stud wide receivers or quarterbacks. You just don't know these things, right? So I think that just having an open mind, just in general, is, 1, are they a good player? Yes, check that box, right? 2, did they land in a great situation? Check that box. And 3, does the coaching staff have a history for certain positions of making that position thrive? Check. So it checks all 3 of those major boxes for me. And ultimately, I think that the Broncos in general, they're on an incline, right? Like we talked about Bonix at the start of the show. They have a competent quarterback. They can get into scoring positions, which gives RJ Harvey an opportunity for touchdowns. So to me, it's like it's a no-brainer. And man, just, you know, congratulations, you nailed that one. The problem is now the market's caught up, so it's probably hard for you to get them in these later drafts.
To your point, the other thing when I'm splitting hairs between, and the way that the way that I rank in Dynasty, my overall just not rookies, but Dynasty rankings is I'm going to be more aggressive on guys that I think are on the ascension. If my best hope for you is that please don't fall in Dynasty rankings when we flip over the cards after the 2025 season. And it's like, what guys can go up in rankings and what guys are you just praying that they don't lose a ton of value? If my prayer for you is that you don't lose a ton of value, then I'm probably going to be at market or below market on you, depending on age and all those other kind of circumstances. But players that I think can gain value and sometimes gain value massively throughout the year, I want to be above market. Now, differing amounts of that, of aggression with that, but I want to be above market on those players because I want people that are drafting startups, to your point, that this is startup season. I want people that are drafting startups right now to, when they, after the 2025 season and you have a year into your team, I want your team to gain equity and be better after the 2025 season instead of saying, holy shit, well, this team's kind of butt. I have to sit here and like rip this down. And maybe this has now become a rebuild when I was like looking at a lot of really iffy propositions, players that are in contract years, players that where maybe the quarterback situation, the head coach, all of these things can go sideways. So it's looking at a lot of different factors. But to your point, going all the way back to RJ Harvey versus Travion, it's not hard to imagine a scenario, and going back to splitting hairs, when projecting the 2025 season, it's not hard to envision a scenario. RJ Harvey has the backfield all to himself where he's got a 70% workload share. Estime and Jaleel will come in and they are just change of pace. So they're not overloading him with volume, and that's fine. But he walks away from the 2025 season with a top 15 running back season. And Travion has to deal with the headache of Ramondre all year. He's good. He's not great. He's a top 24 running back, but RJ gets the steam. He has the better season. And there's a scenario where at the end of the year, could you go trade RJ Harvey for Travion Henderson plus?
Yes, you can.
That is not difficult for you to see in any way, shape, form, or fashion on how you look at this season. It's not.
So my nickname for Henderson is Expensive DeAndre Swift. So like that's
Stop.
I just feel like it's the same freaking archetype. I'm sorry, it's just what it is. Like the guy is a pass catching back, and I just hope he has more attitude and heart than DeAndre Swift. That's probably why he wasn't a very good Lion, because they saw right through him and wasn't part of that culture. Right there with you. RJ Harvey to the moon. What are you doing any best ball right now or anything like that right now? So no, where are you getting
feed into it now? I was dipping I've only done a handful of, like, right now is kind of like the ramp up for me. So
sure.
I did my first draft and stream with a good friend, Neil Orfield, that's done content everywhere the other day. But like I'm in my infancy of trying to get into dipping my toes into the water for best ball season, but I'm gonna ramp up that.
Where are you comfortable drafting him, like on underdog?
Who, Harvey?
Yeah, Harvey.
So right now, I'll just tell you. So
this is a question from me.
Yeah, ADP 54 right now. RB 17 is where he's going. I feel like that's not a bad. That's a pretty sweet spot. I just thought him in a draft. You wouldn't take him in the fourth.
I would take him in the fourth. I wouldn't care. Yeah. Like I would take him where he's going at ADP. I would take him in the fourth. I think he's going to get to a point where. So RB 17. Who are the guys that are right above him? Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah. So right above him from the running back position, he goes right after Joe Mixon and right before Chuba Hubbard.
I could see him hopping both of those guys once we if the steam builds in training camp and stuff like that. Like I think I think he's going to hop both those guys. And right now I have him as my 34th overall player in my 2025 rankings. So like I'm comfortable taking him in the third, the back end of the third, but I think he's going to settle in as a fourth round pick. I think that's where he's going to be.
I think that's pretty sharp. Like I look at the players that are going around him, like the non-running back positions. You've got like George Kittle, George Pickens, Zay Flowers, DK Metcalf.
Pickens will fall after him. Flowers will fall after him as the steam builds. Kittle is going too damn late. I'll also put that out there. Not like we're, talking full best ball, but Kittle is grossly underrated. I've got Kittle as
We're talking anything. We're talking everything.
Kittle is my 29th overall player. I think Kittle has every bit to be the tight end one overall this year, like easily.
So Ayuk might miss the first 4 weeks, it sounds like.
Yep.
So that's a big deal for Kittle, and then that's a big deal for Jennings and Parasol. So
Yep.
that's going to be
Did
interesting.
you just call him Parasol or Pearsall?
What's his name? Pearsall?
Pearsall, but I'm pretty sure you called him Parasol. It's probably a Freudian slip.
Parasol? I'm going to call him Parasol. Parasol was from Florida. So, yeah, I know that is going to be the Niners are interesting. Kittle.
Oh, they're too cheap. All of them are too cheap, dude. CMC, all of them. Everybody's too cheap. Love that offense.
CMC is either going to be a top 3 pick or a bust.
Dude, seems I was all the way out on CMC last year. I got so much crap, and I'm all in now, man. Like I've got him I got him as my RB5 right now and 10th overall, and I mean he's right behind. So my fade, my CMC of this year to fade, I'm fading Saquon. I mean, prayers for me. I'm doing it.
You know what's interesting though is that Saquon's ADP of 2. He's the second player drafted. It's crazy because he was going I remember Brandon. You and I had the same conversation a year ago at this time. He was going late round 2 last year. It was crazy.
Yep. Well, it's everybody chasing, man. We see this every single year, and I think there's a lot of edges that's because people act like fantasy is this solved game, and it's not, man.
It's not at all.
It comes down to one of the things that I think is one of the biggest edges in how you're looking at ranks, and this goes redraft and best ball specifically, is when people go the high-end players and everybody's they expect last year to repeat this year. And it's every damn year that people do it. And it's you gain more EV and you will have a better fantasy season if you automatically play the war of attrition. If you automatically assume that last year's RB1, QB1, tight end has more correlation of repeating than any of those other positions. But if you automatically assume that especially the running back and wide receiver ones will not repeat, if you assume that, you are in a better situation overall year after year after year. And people are yeah, but come on, you're fading CMC, and then we see CMC fail. Over the last few years, okay, so Saquon was the RB1 in fantasy points per game last year. Okay, the year before that, CMC. The year before that, you're looking at every single year, and I'm trying to get this, apparently my browser is not going fast enough for me to, okay, but the year before that, Austin Eckler was the RB1 in fantasy points per game. The year before that, it was Derrick Henry on a short list, but he only played half the season. There was really Jonathan Taylor. The year before that, it was Christian McCaffrey again. The year before that, it was I'm lying. Christian McCaffrey missed part of 2020, so it wasn't him. It was Alvin Kamara that was the RB1 in fantasy. Yep. And the year before that, it was CMC. The year before that, it was, and I've gone all the way back to 2018. The year before that, it was Todd Gurley. So this is all to say, and that is the case. If you go every single year, there's a different RB1, there's a different wide receiver one. The edge is don't expect these things to repeat year after year, correct. And yet everybody's rankings have Saquon as the RB1, and you're a fool if you say anything else. The same thing as people said last year's. Everybody's rankings had CMC as the RB1, and you're a fool if you say anything else. Actually, you're wearing the dunce cap if you expect those things to repeat.
Yeah,
correct.
Well,
correct.
I think
we faded the hell out of CMC last year.
Yeah, I did too.
The biggest thing is there is so much variance, so much unknown in fantasy football that you need to lean into that variance and that unknown, and just you have to take risks, and it kind of goes to the whole RG Harvey pre-draft conversation. But listen, we got to get this train back on the tracks here. So I got a few questions I want to get because listen, I love a tangent. We love a tangent, but we got too many questions for you, D bro. So I'm gonna move it over to the wide receiver position because one of the players, this was pre-draft. Brandon and I came on here and we basically said, why can we not be drafting Travis Hunter to 102? Okay. And I'm still convinced it's not a bad pick if you go and decide to take Travis Hunter to 102. I haven't really had that position before. I've got a draft coming up, one of my later drafts where I actually have the 102, so I have to make that decision. But I got him at the 104 once in one of my drafts. But help me navigate this Travis Hunter conundrum because I'm really confused what to do because the talent is there. But then you go, it's just like, remember when Jamar Chase was a rookie and he couldn't see the stripes on the ball correctly and he was dropping the ball. Now this time it's Travis Hunter can't run routes properly when anybody with eyes who's watched him in games, he's a pretty damn good route runner. So where do you stand on Travis Hunter?
So I will talk about some of the areas. I'm not going to say the areas that he's bad at or that he sucks or that he's drawback, whatever. There are every single rookie that enters the NFL, there are areas of the game where they have to improve. Every single player.
100%.
Now, again, going back and forth between players, that changes and all that kind of stuff. Now, Travis Hunter, for me, pre-draft, before he landed in Jacksonville, I had as my wide receiver 7 in my rookie rankings. Since going to Jacksonville, and the thing about it, dude, is he is going to be a full-time wide receiver. I have no question. I have no questions about that at all. And this all comes back to, does anybody honestly think, and this is just common sense, does anybody honestly think that the Jacksonville Jaguars trade up and make that aggressive move the way that they did in the NFL draft to go draft a damn corner? No.
Nope.
That's not what it is to draft a wide receiver. And you don't do this like to say, oh, he's going to play both ways, blah, blah, blah. That's not even happening in camp, dude. They want him to pan out as a wide receiver. And the thing about it that I was willing to acknowledge when going through Travis Hunter is, and this is not shade or anything, Shane, at all. But for me with Travis Hunter, I felt like throughout the entirety of the draft process, the conversation around him was Travis Hunter is legendary. Travis Hunter is a sparkling prospect. Travis Hunter is basically football Jesus. He can do no wrong. He's amazing. And Travis Hunter has growth, in my opinion. He has some serious growth that he does have to achieve in the NFL as a route technician. And from a common sense standpoint, that makes a ton of sense. Dude played both ways in college. He didn't have the extra time because there's only the one finite resource in this world, in our lives, that we will never get back is time. So you only have 24 hours of every single freaking day. The kid's going to practice. He's working on this and this. You run out of time to be able to do the wide receiver things at the in-depth level to be able to be a sharp route runner. Am I saying he's a bad route runner? No. But there are TikTok moments in his routes where it's just wasted movement, where you see it at the top of his stem. You see it on double moves. I could throw a billion different tape clips where it's like he ran a double move on a go route. Okay, Shadur placed the ball where it should have been, or where Travis Hunter should have been in the route, but because he had wasted movement in his route, he didn't get to that point. So this all shows up in the numbers. And again, things that I didn't hear people talk about in the process for Travis Hunter last year, amongst 206 qualifying wide receivers. This dude was 40th in yards per route run against zone coverage. Now you split that up against man coverage, he drops to 78th. That is part of being a route runner, learning how to deal one with man and press. They don't see it a ton in college because of how college defenses are set up. But what this all brings me back to Travis Hunter. I'm fine if you take him at the 102. He is in a tier of, now personally, Tedero McMillan is my wide receiver 1 in this class.
Sure.
And Travis Hunter is my wide receiver 2. I would take Tet over him at the 102, but he's in the conversation with him and Amarian Hampton in that 3-pack of players that are in, as well as whoever your QB1. So really a 4-pack of taking one of those guys at the 102. But where I go with Hunter is, one, again, getting back to it, I think you can take him at the 102 because I think he's going to be a full-time wide receiver. And 2, the landing spot in Jacksonville, about going back to where he's at as a player. I think he's going to play 50 to 60% of his snaps in the slot this year in Jacksonville.
I hope so.
And for where he is as a player, that's awesome. I had worries about him if he were to gone to New England and who they have as wide receivers and stuff, or a place that was going to ask him and expect him to play 80 to 90% on the perimeter and be a team's starting X wide receiver from the hop. That is what gave me the scared heebie-jeebies about, like, oh shit, like maybe Travis Hunter stumbles out the gate. Maybe we see he's going to have real-time growth that has to happen at the NFL for him to excel in that role. I don't think we have those type of in-depth worries in Jacksonville. You have Brian Thomas Jr. that's going to be the prototypical X. He's going to be the downfield threat. They're going to ask Travis Hunter to go beat zone, go beat off coverage, play in the slot. And when we play teams that are going to run more zone coverage, at least 50, 60, 70% of the snaps, or maybe higher rates, and play off coverage, sure, we'll motion you outside. You could play X. Now, in 2 receiver sets, when they go 12 or 21 personnel, you're probably going to see, yes, it's going to be a tandem of BTJ and Travis Hunter. But when they go 3 wide, I think you're going to see De'Ami Brown going to be on the outside, and Hunter is going to be definitively in the slot every single damn snap. And that's awesome for Hunter.
Yep. I think BTJ and him are going to split those slot roles, because they were starting to throw BTJ in that slot role towards the end of the year, and look what happened, man. He exploded for everybody during the playoffs, and like that is on par. I'm glad you brought up De'Ami Brown, because that dude can play. He could play outside receiver very well, and that's what he can do. Yes, I'm right there with you. Are you worried about his target share? What kind of target share are you predicting for him coming out of the box if he plays full time?
22 to 24%. Like, I think he's going to be north of 21%, like immediately. Like, who in that offense outside of Brian Thomas Jr. is going to draw above a 15% target share?
No one.
Really? Like Brenton Strange? Hell no. De'Ami Brown? Hell no. Like, they're probably going to hover around that 14 to 15%. Neither one of those guys are getting into the 20% target range.
And I think that's Travis' saving grace. I think that's the saving grace right there.
I mean, dude, I think there's a lot of different outs, and I think it's incredibly ironic that he landed in Jacksonville and he's team with Brian Thomas Jr., who Brian Thomas Jr., if you go back and like anybody like wants to cook my receipts on Brian Thomas Jr., I was probably at maybe a little bit below consensus about Brian Thomas Jr. because Brian Thomas Jr., the prospect, and Brian Thomas Jr., the player at the end of the year were two different players. He had a layer of growth as a route runner and a tactician that we didn't see at LSU, but we saw in Jacksonville. The same thing can happen, and what we hope happens for Travis Hunter. It's just funny to me that both these guys are on the same freaking team.
It's Malik Neighbors and BTJ all over again with Travis Hunter on the opposite side of him. Like he's so explosive, just not after the catch like Neighbors. Neighbors was just pure electricity with the ball in his hands.
Man, he was my wide receiver one of that class. Love Neighbors.
Yeah, dude, I was such a wuss. I should have done it.
We were cowards.
I had him at 2. We were coward. We got cowarded out on it, and I wish we would have stuck with our guns on that because Malik Neighbors is a superstar. And honestly, right now, I know it might be a little hot takey, whatever, but he's my dynasty wide receiver 1. Like, he is the guy I want. And on my team, he's the safest asset in dynasty, period. And he's so young, and that is what's amazing about him. And I'm excited that you said that about Hunter. Yes, he does have some things to do, but think about this, man. This guy put up those kind of numbers, and they said he didn't attend one wide receiver meeting throughout the season. Not one. Like, they were literally telling this kid, this is your route on the sideline. And that's how they were relaying it in for him. Like, once this guy gets comfortable and starts understanding what his role is and knows that he's going to be dependent on like that, I mean, I'm telling you, like, his football IQ, I'm not going to bet against this kid because he is one of those guys that he is football Jesus, man. Like he is that kind of guy. I'm from Colorado. I know I got all I've heard about is this kid. And I just feel like whatever this guy wants to do, he can do. Like, I feel like it's just about giving him the reps to do it. And that's what's happening already in camp.
Yeah. So just to put a bow on this. So I think, and you just nailed it there, Brandon. So one of my customers who lives in Denver, he lived 5 doors down from Travis Hunter. And every morning at 5 a.m. he'd hear his truck rip past his house. And then, but you kind of get to know his, I guess now wife. But just in general, just like apparently really down to earth guy, just a super nice guy. We all saw that video where I guess that picture with him on the plane when he was going to Jacksonville. And it's just, character's so important in the NFL.
Yep.
And he's got the raw talent.
It's the thing we hear the least about too. Like, we don't know how these guys interview. We don't know, you know what I mean? You hear what's out in the media, but that's what you're supposed to hear because it's the media. So you hear what they want you to hear about the media, and some of that stuff gets quieted. So it's like, that's the one thing that like is so hard, like that I've really enjoyed, again, getting in deeper into the prospect stuff, is the small snippets of like getting to talk to these guys at, whether it's going to the combine this year, going to Senior Bowl, and getting to talk with some of these guys. It's like you get more of a feel of who they are as a person, and who are the guys that are going to, because that's, dude, every single person in the freaking NFL, like all these guys are hyper athletic. All of these guys, like all of us, you know, in our 30s and 40s, sitting here on a couch eating potato chips and wings and stuff like that. We're like, that guy is slow. Every one of these guys are top shelf athletes, man. And what separates them is who's willing to put in that freaking extra work, who's willing to stay after and catch 200 balls in the jug machine every single damn day when there ain't no cameras and nobody's watching. You know, that's the hard thing.
I'm betting on Travis for that. I'm betting all day on him, man. Like,
I wouldn't bet against him, dude.
Like, the only thing that kind of scares me is he is a little thin. I wish he was a little thicker on the bottom. But he's kind of.
Weren't those the same concerns that people had about Devonta Smith? He's too skinny.
It's very true. Very true. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Yeah,
I
got you. That's the only thing I'm worried about.
Guys can put on weight. Just look at Marvin Harrison, like Jr. Like he just,
dude,
like,
he looks different. Right? I'm not
too concerned about that. Yeah, he does.
I won't even give my one of my pet peeves. One of the things we'll never see, and I wish we saw it. I wish we got new measurables on players every single year. I wish we got those updated.
That was sick.
So like players that like where we're not still playing the same narrative of, oh, hey, guess what? James Cook is 207 now. James Cook is 215 now. This guy is you know what I mean? Like, I wish we had that, and we'll never get it. But I wish we did get that on a yearly basis, like updated measurables, to be like, because it's another layer of the context. It's another layer of the pie.
Another guy that put on crazy weight and looks completely different is Keon Coleman. That dude looks ridiculous right now.
Oh, I'm a little worried about the Marv stuff. Like I was like, oh crap, man, are you too big? You look kind of like a freaking athletic tight end. Like, or please don't go full David Boston on me. Please don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Right on.
Well, let's not put negative juju out there. Selfishly, there's a guy that I noticed you were ranked quite higher on, and quite a bit of this player, but doesn't get a lot of talk. But it's Trey Harris, drafted by the Chargers. Ole Miss. Talk to me about Trey Harris, because this is a guy that I saw you had way up in your rankings, and I love him, and I felt like I was above consensus, and I kind of baked him in slightly above his ADP, to your point, to make sure we get him in our drafts. But why are we too low on Trey Harris?
I just don't understand what's to not like about Trey Harris. I love this film, the metrics. The thing about when we're evaluating players and when I go through this process, like, I love it when not only the numbers and the analytics speak to me, but it's also the film and the merriment of those two. And when the two match up, that is a player that I'm going to love. I'm going to try to send in the moon. I'm going to rank aggressively. I'm going to be over it. And like, it's all the things on Trey Harris. It's the fact that over the last, he's not a one-year wonder. So anybody that I know, everybody cites his 2024 stats and all that kind of stuff and things like, he's not a one-year wonder. So it's not just that. I mean, over the last 2 years, he's ranked 1st and 9th in yards per route run, 4th and 6th in receiving grade. You want to talk about a true prototypical X that also you can put him inside. Trey Harris can not only win deep, he can provide something after the catch. So you're looking at, is he a 3-level threat? Can he get deep? Can he make plays and break tackles after the catch? He can do all those things, man. And he's got a certain amount of strength to where, can he beat man coverage? Because if you want to just like eyeball like it, the tip top of elite players, one of the things that they all share too is, if you want to just go look at tight ends and wide receivers, all of the elite guys in yards per route run against man coverage, all those guys check that box. 90% of those guys, you'll see them at the very tip top of that list. Well, guess what? Trey Harris over the last 2 years in college, 1st and 18th in yards per route run against man coverage. It's all FBS wide receivers with at least 15 targets against man coverage. So like, I just look at him, he's a total package, man. He can create after the catch. He can get deep. He's a damn good route runner. Like, there are so many parts on film where you go look at the all 22 and he is routing dudes up. He's playing 4D chess, where there's some of the because I think that people contextualize film also wrong and how they're watching it at times, where it's like, they'll knock a wide receiver and saying, well, when the ball's not coming to him, he's loafing on the field. I don't knock any wide receivers or players for that, in the sense that you also have to look at This is a game of chess. Are you playing chess or are you playing checkers when you're a wide receiver going up against a cornerback? It's almost like if you want to look at baseball and how pitchers set up batters. I'm facing the same guy 4 times in a game for a pitcher and a batter. So I'm not going to show him my fastball in the first at bat or my breaking ball or maybe my third or fourth pitch. The same thing happens with a wide receiver and a cornerbacks throughout the entirety of a game. What does my release package look like? Am I going to threaten you deep, and are you going to have to respect my deep speed and my route running or my release package off the line? What am I doing on a per snap basis? So like on these plays where these guys are not getting targeted, and there's a lot of first read stuff in college, quarterbacks going to and design plays to go to certain guys or only half field reads. So like with Trey Harris, the 4D chess that you see on his film too is those reps where the ball's not coming to him. You'll see times where he sets a cornerback up and he will explode past them. And then the cornerback's like, oh shit, man, like this guy's faster than I thought. And then so like where it's 2 or 3 plays later, you'll see him run a dig route or run a comeback, something like that, where he's breaking the top of his stem. And so that he's putting in the back of the cornerback's mind of, I've got to respect this guy's deep speed or I'm going to get my butt burned and he's going to go for a 40 or 50-yard touchdown, where Trey Harris will set them up on the play that's not going to him. And they're like, oh, crap, like I need to play off more and I need to respect that. But then 2, 3 plays later, he's got a dig coming back to him and he snaps it off. He leaves the cornerback in the shadow realm and then he gets upfield after the catch because the cornerback's so worried about getting beat over the top that now he's played more off. And Trey Harris is like, dude, I'm going to snatch your soul. I got you.
Yeah. So
do you think he can overtake QJ as like the 1-2?
Oh, QJ's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Automatically. I'm not worried about Quentin Johnston. I'm not worried about Mike Williams. Mike Williams might not even make it out of freaking camp. Trey Harris is going to be their wide receiver too.
Yeah.
From the hop.
I agree. So the only thing, the tier that he ends up in all the rookie drafts, you know it's coming. It's Jaden Higgins, it's Trey Harris, and it's Luther Burden. Luther Burden went to a phenomenal coach, went to a good situation. So I've been tending and then Jaden Higgins also went to a phenomenal situation. Are you smashing Trey Harris no matter what, or are you diversifying with that tier?
So with that tier, so my rankings, I have Trey Harris, then I have Emeka Egbuka, then I have Jaden Higgins. I'm a known Luther Burden hater. Only because, dude, if you look at his archetype of player, this archetype of player has not worked out in the NFL. They don't work out in the NFL. Whenever you rely upon, and to me, saying you have really good movement skills and can become a good route runner and saying you are a good route runner are two very different conversations. And for Luther Burden, a lot of people are projecting that he can become a good route runner. But you're talking about a player, dude, like it was all manufactured touches. It was all underneath stuff. Like it was all pop passes, rub routes, create easy separation. Give me the guy that I can ask you from the hop, go out there, sit on the perimeter, go play in the slot, and route dudes up. Win on your own. Because not every offensive coordinator, not every situation that prospects are dropped into in the NFL are going to have a coordinator or in an offense that does that creates opportunities for them. If you can route dudes up off the line, that you're creating opportunities for yourself. And we always say targets are earned. Well, targets are earned because you get open and because you're a good route runner. And so with Luther Burden in that tier, I'm willing to. So I have Trey Harris, Emeka Egbuka, and Jaden Higgins all right next to each other. I'm fine with people diversifying across multiple leagues. If I'm playing in 2 or 3 leagues, I'm probably drafting Trey Harris in at least 2 of those leagues. If I'm playing in 3, and I'm probably getting Jaden Higgins in the other one. I just look at I got both of those guys. I love Emeka Egbuka. I think Emeka Egbuka is this year's Rome Odunze, this year's JSN, this year that's like
JSN.
He's this year's guy that's in a crowded room. And while everybody's projecting because they look at Mike Evans' contract and they say, well, Mike Evans is gone after this year. It's wheels up, baby. Chris Godwin is coming off another injury. Dude,
He just signed.
Does anybody
Big money.
really think that Mike Evans, if he wants to continue playing football, does anybody truly think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to let Mike Evans, who has been a career Buck, he's going to go in the Hall of Fame wearing a damn Buccaneers jersey, and he hasn't fallen off at all in skill? Like, he is still, every single per route metric you pull up, he's still freaking amazing. If he gets to the end of this year and he wants to come back for another year, you're telling me that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not going to re-sign him when they have the 13th most cap space going into next year? They won't re-sign him to a year deal or 2-year deal. So for me and Chris Godwin, they cannot get out of his contract probably earlier than 2027 at the earliest. He's there for the next 2 years. So what is the path for Emeka Egbuka? Okay, fine. He's a starter in 3 wide receiver sets. That path gets very, very muddy whenever Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to be still around him for the next 2, maybe 3 years. So I'm not making the assumption like everybody else that Mike Evans is gone after this year. So that kind of puts me a little bit lower. And I'm willing to go Trey Harris and Jaden Higgins. Dude, I love Jaden Higgins. He's going to be the number 2 in that offense from the word go. He's a very different player. I've heard a lot of people do the wrong thing and say he's Nico Collins. He's not Nico Collins. He's not, like, outside of the fact that he is also big and he's fast. That's where the similarities with Nico Collins stop. Jaden Higgins is a player that they're probably going to play a little bit in the slot. He's very, very good on in and out breaking routes. That dude just beats cornerbacks to death on leverage and stuff. Like, he will be the guy that can eat underneath and play inside outside, where Nico can do those things, but he also has a more of a field stretching component than even Jaden Higgins does. So those 2 guys I will put above Emeka Egbuka. And if I have multiple leagues, I'll diversify. But if I have 1 or 2 leagues, it's Trey Harris all day.
Here's a little stat. So when I look at players, and I tend to look at first down per route run, like
very good stat.
And Mike Evans is 6th still in the league.
Yeah.
At 6th.
He's not slowing down at all, dude.
And guess who's 4? Chris Godwin. Emeka is completely buried. You're right. The talent is, he's probably the safest talent wide receiver of the wide receivers to bet on, because he's just the way I describe him is he's a pro. Like, the guy just knows how to play.
You know what you're getting. Yeah. He's awesome.
He plays within himself. He never, like, he doesn't go outside of what he can't do. Like, he just knows what he can do. So it's just very interesting to me with the Chris Godwin re-signing, especially because they were in love with Emeka throughout the whole process. So that was interesting to me, but whatever. They think the Bucks think the only reason that they were, sidelined from making a big push was just injuries. So that's why they took Emeka for depth.
I don't even understand, though. Like, if you're looking at, like, you try to build a basketball team and you try to cultivate a bunch of different skill sets when you're building out a wide receiver room. I stylistically, I don't understand what the hell the Bucks are doing, though. Like, if you look at their room, Mike Evans is different than all those other guys. Chris Godwin, his best work is in the slot. Emeka Egbuka, the same thing. Like, we know what we're getting out of Emeka Egbuka, but that is, I mean, he's literally, like, you want to talk about very comparable players, and him and JSN, they are, man. He's a slot predominant player, but you could say the same damn thing about Jalen McMillan. Jalen McMillan played in the slot more in college. Yes, the Buccaneers put him out there on the perimeter in his rookie season. That doesn't mean that's where he's best at.
Correct.
So, like, we've got Mike Evans
last year too.
A trio of slot players. Like, there's only one slot.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yep. It's just great that they don't have a good tight end, so it helps out for all the.
I don't understand why they didn't go draft Matthew Golden, which, if you look at the complexion of their room, would have fit so much better. Like, he made more sense. Like, what are we doing? But again, I'm not in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers front office. I can't even, like, wrap my head around what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's one of those ones where it's like, you love the player, you love the situation. Hey, you're going to Tampa. This is fantastic. And you realize, wait a minute, there's just not enough seats at this table. Like, it was a head scratcher for sure. But okay, yeah, exactly. So we're running kind of tight on time here, and inevitably I knew we'd go over an hour, but I want to be conscious of your time here.
I tried to give you a heads up. I was going to run my mouth.
I know.
It's how we roll too.
It's how we roll too. But I want to talk about the quarterback position because I'm not in any non-super flex leagues nowadays, so I think it's important that we do have this quick conversation because you throughout the show have been referencing whoever quote your top quarterback is. So why don't you tell the people who you have as your top quarterback in the class this year?
I mean, dude, it was so okay. So keeping it a buck here, it was Shedeur Sanders, and then we saw him tumble down the NFL draft. And I cannot keep a guy that got 5th round capital as my QB1 in the class, regardless of whatever I think his skills are, and then I think that the NFL got it wrong. Regardless of that, now the guy that was my QB2 of this class over Cam Ward and is now my QB1 of this class is Jackson Dart.
Baby.
And
yes,
dude, this all comes back to, again, the echo chamber and the consensus and stuff like that. Guys, Jaden Daniels was my QB1 of last year's class. It wasn't Caleb Williams. And I love Jaden. And what do we hear about Jaden Daniels' last process? He's too skinny. He's going to get hurt. He only throws slot fades and deep balls. He can't do anything else. He's a limited player. He's a 1-year wonder. I mean, should I go on all the tropes and crap that got
he had neighbors. He had Brian Thomas Jr. He was being held up by them. Yep.
And all that was said about Jaden Daniels. I said it was wrong the entire process, and I'm going to say the same things. Like Jackson Dart's good, man. He could play football. Like, dude, you don't walk away. I don't give a crap about like scheme and things like that. And we could talk about Lane Kiffin and all that kind of stuff. You see Dart go through progressions on film. You see the accuracy. You see him throw with anticipation. And the other thing about it is, man, like I don't remember, I say I don't remember. I wasn't high on Bo Nix coming out. I didn't draft him anywhere, all that kind of stuff. I faded Bo Nix. Again, lesson learned. But similarly to Bo Nix, we have a player that was a 1st round drafted quarterback that is going at the tail end of the 1st round of rookie drafts or 2nd round in some spots, and people just hate Jackson Dart. And I don't understand it, man. You have a quarterback where over his final collegiate season, he was top 12 in passing grade, adjusted completion rate, yards per attempt, big time throw rate. If those numbers aren't enough for you, guess what? Also from a clean pocket, which is the sticky, because you guys pressure numbers depending on options, offensive line, not every pressure is made the same. You have quick pressures and, where you're hanging 6 seconds in the pocket and, now you're pressured. Clean pocket passing stuff as well. He was 1st in clean pocket passer rating in last year's or this year's class and 10th in clean pocket adjusted completion rate. All of the numbers say Jackson Dart is really damn good at football. He has rushing upside. He got the 1st round capital that nobody thought he was going to get, although I was squawking about that shit from Senior Bowl that he was going to get because I heard from people in the know at Senior Bowl. I'm not a source guy, but I will pass on information as I get it from people that he was going to go with 1st round in the NFL draft at freaking Senior Bowl in February. And yet people don't like Jackson Dart. And I don't know why, man. Like, this just feels like this year's JJ McCarthy that everybody hates and nobody likes, and they're all going to be proved wrong.
Honestly, he is very close to JJ McCarthy. That's a good comp for him. Yeah.
I think for me, it's so hard when you're in those echo chambers, and it's not just a fantasy community, right? It's the NFL community as well. So, you listen to the NFL talk shows and NFL Network and all that crap. And the consensus was there were no 1st round quarterback talents in this class, right? So you hear that enough times, you start to think, well, shit, like in my dynasty leagues, like maybe I don't want to have another like Mason Rudolph type like situation. Like it's one of those situations where you hear it so many times, you start to believe it. But you look at the situation, and we just talked about Trey Harris, who was his wide receiver in college, and Trey Harris was a pretty damn good wide receiver. And then guess what? This
wide receiver class was so bad, but Trey Harris goes in the 2nd round. Again, we're talking about the echo chamber, right? Like,
exactly.
This wide receiver class is terrible. Crazy. Harris goes in round 2. Jack Besh goes in round 2. Ted McMillan, which I was told was too slow to be a top 10 wide receiver,
insane,
goes top 10.
Yeah. Easy. Like I thought it was laughable when people said he wasn't going to go top 10. I was like, this is all smoke to get him down to the 20s for teams.
But to that point, you guys have been in the dynasty circle as well. Do you remember hearing the same crap about the guy that he was comped to in Drake London? People said he was too
100%.
People said he wouldn't go top 10.
Yeah.
But he did.
It's
And
when you have
and Ted's better after the catch than Drake.
Oh,
Drake is
dude.
better. Like
Ted is amazingly better after the catch than Drake London.
He's
Yes.
so good
Yes,
after the
yes,
catch,
yes.
and people really don't understand that yet. And
That's why my comp for him was Drake London, but with better yak ability. That was
perfect. That's
verbatim.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, I know. I love that. I love that. Okay, well, listen, we got to get out of here real quick, but just last but not least, we got to get a pulse because we've been talking a lot about the dynasty space. We're here to win championships, okay? Like ultimately, that's what we want to do. We want to win championships. So we talked about a player like a Mike Evans, like a Chris Godwin, guys who are still probably going to put up production this year, but the future is maybe a little bit more cloudy. Where do you stand, just like in general as a dynasty player, on going and getting those older vets on your team in the effort to win a championship? How do you feel about that?
I'm fine with it. To me, I'm more inclined to do it and take the swing on the aging vets when I feel like I've got more certainty for like not just this upcoming season, but like a 2-year window. So it's not guys that like are on a 1-year deal with a team, and then it's like, oh, like they could be vaporized, like Mari Cooper, Keenan Allen, those types of guys, where it's like, do I want to go out and get Devontae Adams in every single spot that I possibly can because he's got a 2-year deal from the Rams? Yes, they could technically probably get out of it after 1 year, although they would be upside down in some serious dead cap. So it's really a 2-year deal. Like, and a player like that has shown no fall off, and I've got 2-year kind of certainty again, like playing in that 2 to 3 year window. I'm much more inclined to go get a player like a Devontae Adams or hell, George Kittle. Like I'm more inclined. George Kittle on a freaking new contract. I don't give a crap that he's 31 years old. He's been relatively healthy. He's still one of the most efficient players, not just a tight end, in the damn league. So I'm fine going acquiring him. If I got a win now team, or I think not even just like I'm winning in 2025, but maybe like I could compete for a championship in 2025, but really I'm kind of setting myself like 2026 is going to be the year where I just put the league on watch. Like I'm fine getting players like even in that ilk on my team.
One more question before we get out of here from me.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's talking about the 27 draft class, the 2027 draft class.
Here we go.
How are you taking advantage of the hype, or are you stockpiling the picks?
I don't ever play that game, to be honest with you. Like, didn't we hear about this ballyhoo 2026 class? And we do that every single year.
Every year.
So for everybody that plays Dynasty, this is how the year is going to go for you, okay? Right now in your rookie drafts, you're going to hear about next year's class and the year after that, about how they're so great. After you get through your rookie drafts, when we get back to the NFL draft process, you're going to hear about, oh, well, that hyped up class isn't as good as you were told. It's not as good because guys got hurt or they stayed in class or blah, blah, blah. This happens every single year. It's, man, that next year's class is going to be so dang good. And then when we get closer to it, they try to knock it down a peg. Maybe not the entire class as a whole, but maybe just certain positions. And they try to knock it down a peg because we're getting closer. And it's like, well, we can't just keep like loving all these players. We got to sit here and share some hate, or we got to go to the opposition or the opposite take versus what's been spewed the last 6 months.
Dude, I'm right there with you. Like, unless you are projected to be the number 1 pick, so you can get, the monster at Ohio State, like that's the only guy that you can legitly go, this is gonna be a superstar. Like,
because like
unless he gets
the
hurt.
Quarterback class next year, like what if Arch Manning doesn't come out? What if Arch Manning doesn't come out? What if Drew Allar is still not great? And some of the other quarterbacks have good seasons, but not great seasons. And everybody's like, the 2026 quarterback class is going to be so good. And we walk into next year and people are like, well, it's okay, but it's not as good as we thought it was going to be. 2027 is now really where it's at.
That's the year.
Dude,
I'm telling you,
it's the same shit every year, man.
That's why I'm saying is like, as I've gotten through, more maturity with this dynasty stuff, is that I like to project out like that. You have no idea what is
No.
going to happen.
Because you have so many
know,
players that are like say Chuba Hubbard when he came out. Oh, he was going to be awesome, and then he flopped the next year. Ollie Gordon, where would you have projected him? Like, or Jane Daniels, guys that also ascend. Where it's like we weren't talking about Jane Daniels, like nobody was talking about him as a Heisman hopeful going
Not
into his
at
final
ASU.
year, and then he blows up. Like that's where the volatility. It's like, dude, just. I always deal with this in a year-by-year basis, and this is the other part of it is like I don't have the bandwidth to follow college football during the college season. Yeah. I get to it when I get to after the NFL season is done. Then I do my deep dive on prospects. I watch all the film. I do all the stuff for the guys. I write up all up, and then I figure out where I'm going to sit. And guess what? The great thing about Dynasty is you could still go make trades. You could go make trades in your rookie drafts, even if you don't have a lot of picks. That doesn't mean you can't trade into a rookie draft. So all of these things are fluid, man. Just deal with it. We're always better set up when we have even more information. You're going to have the most information you could possibly have the closer you get to that draft class. So if you want to play tank and you want to sit here and just absolutely just play the whole tank thing and then get all the 2027 picks from everybody in your league and then trade those away for veterans or take the rookie, fine, whatever. That's a totally different strategy, but that's a different conversation. And using that as a way to attack Dynasty, that's a different conversation than even saying, well, this class is going to be the class.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
One of the last questions we had was give us
last.
Yeah, give us a few
last.
Few sleepers that you
one
have
guy
round 3 beyond. 2.
One guy. Find 2.
Okay. So any position, we're just going rookies here, right?
And anything you want from round 3 beyond.
Okay. So I got to give my love letter about Rashard Smith. I think he's going to be Jarrett McKinnon in the KC offense. I think that he's going to have a role. If it's not week 1, it's going to be very, very soon. He has the different skill set out of everybody else in that backfield. Nobody else has the pass catching chops that he has in that backfield. And we've seen this role play up, again, going back to Jarrett McKinnon, play up extremely well, even on limited volume. But like, dude, if Pacheco goes down, Rashard Smith could just take over the backfield. And for everybody that says that can't happen, I point you to the Exhibit A, 7th round pick, former Isaiah Pacheco, who has been their starting running back. To say it cannot happen, here you go. If he had stayed healthy, he'd have been that dude too, okay? So, I mean, come on. The team has already shown you they're willing to do this. If you're willing to listen, you can enjoy Rashard Smith. Possibly even after your rookie draft, pick him up off of waivers because it's
amazing.
I've drafted him in 4th rounds of every rookie draft that I've been able to, and I've spent heavily on him in waivers because I believe in the talent. But do you want me to give you one more player or not?
Just one more.
One more.
Okay,
come on. Me.
Then I'll go back to I'll stay with the running back class because this running back class is really freaking good. So why not, man? A player that should not have gone where he went in the NFL draft. I didn't understand this. This happens to players every single year, man. Like I'm old enough to remember when I was out there talking about Jaylen Warren and how much I loved in him and like he shouldn't have gone undrafted. So I'm going to bring up another 7th round pick here. Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt. I love this kid. Big time talent. Tested really well. Some of his short area stuff was not great, but he's a one-cut downhill runner, man. Like, not as much of he can catch passes. That's not where he's going to make his money in the NFL. But dude, in the Commanders scheme where you're talking about a lot of power, a lot of gap runs and stuff like that, anything happens to Brian Robinson Jr., this guy could take over the backfield and be that early down guy for them. If he would have not had the NCAA screw him over with the eligibility, and everybody can go Google it, just Google Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt, NCAA or eligibility or whatever, you could read all of it. If NCAA would not have screwed him over in his final year in college, been limited to one damn game, this kid would have not gone round 7. He would have been round 4, round 5. Like I had a round 4 grade on him. And just to put numbers to everything that I've said right now, if you go back to 2023, when he was able to put up a full season, this player amongst all running backs in FBS with at least 100 carries was 19th in yards after contact per attempt and 12th in elusive rating. He can play. He's much better than a 7th round pick.
I love that. Just
You
absolutely
came with it.
fire. Well,
Fire.
absolute fire, man. We listen. You've been so generous with your time. We
Nice.
thank you so much. Honestly, I've always enjoyed listening to you. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. So we really appreciate it. Listen, guys, of course, you probably already follow him, but at dbro_FFB on X, you can find all of his content over at fantasypros.com. I'm going to include the links in the show description. But Derek, is there anything else you want to talk about before we end it here?
I mean, it's so we're in Dynasty startup season. Currently, I'm working on right now. This will either be out later this week into going into next week. We might just put it out all next week. I've got a top 5 Dynasty startup value series. I'll be going through quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. That's coming out. And then it's just the push to all the redraft stuff. If people are still doing rookie drafts or startups right now, or not just startups, but like if you're doing rookie drafts, my top 100. So I have 100 skill players, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, all written up, full write-ups on the site right now, as well as building all the redraft stuff. I will have, before it's all said and done, before week 1, I'll have anywhere from 150 to 180 players written up for redraft live for everybody doing redrafts this year. So
There's one word for that, and it's maniacal, and that's why we love you, D-Bro. Thank you so much for your time. We are, of course, the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. Go check them out at fantasypros.com. Derek Brown, for Brandon, for D-Bro, I'm Flex Shane, and we are the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show.
Sheesh.